Welcome to the tasting room. As always, we're glad you're here. Today, we're headed to a craft distillery that is very close to home, where they're creating elite level whiskeys from locally sourced ingredients using time-honored techniques. And it turns out you'll learn a thing or two about whiskey history when you tour the Leiper's Fork Distillery.
Good afternoon and welcome to our family-run distillery here at Leiper's Fork. I'm your tour guide. My name is Paul. Okay, you might notice I've got a slight accent going on. I apologize for that. I drank too much scotch last night. Woke up with this. No, obviously I was born and raised in Scotland. I was sent to Tennessee 3.5 years ago by the Scotch Whisky Association to do missionary work. Now I've trained in Scotch whiskey in Scotland. I've trained in bourbon in Kentucky. I've trained in Tennessee whiskey in Tennessee. I also know Irish whiskey, Canadian whiskey, and Japanese whiskey. Now the reason we meet out here is so I can point at the roof, left and right sides. That roof up there should be a nice red color, like our Tennessee flag, but thanks to a type of fungus that loves the smell of alcohol and will stick to anything that smells strongly of alcohol, it has been discolored. Now the federal government knew about that back during Prohibition and actually informed their agents to look for it. If they saw it on roofs, trees, rocks, they knew close by somebody was making alcohol. And it will stick to anything. If you look at the string lights up here, look how dark the glass is. It's completely harmless, but it will stick to anything. I notice some of you are currently drinking alcohol. Keep moving, you should be okay. Okay, follow me inside please. Okay, so welcome to our still house. All the whiskey we make is made in this building. This building was built by our owner and master distiller Lee Kennedy's younger brother Wes Kennedy. And Wes built this the old-fashioned way. No nails, screws, nuts or bolts in the main construction. It's all wooden pegs. So the whiskey we make in here is considered a pre-Prohibition style whiskey. The methods we use in here and recipes we use in here were used in this county prior to Prohibition. I know you've heard of Prohibition, but let me give you a little background as it relates to Tennessee. The federal government brought in Prohibition in January 1920. It lasted until December 1933. But Tennessee was way ahead of them. Tennessee brought in statewide Prohibition over 10 years earlier in 1909. When the feds lifted Prohibition in 1933, Tennessee kept it for 4 more years. When they did finally lift Prohibition in Tennessee in 1937, they only lifted it in 3 counties. Moore County, Coffee County, and Lincoln County. The rest of Tennessee could not make legal alcohol for 100 years. So in 2012, our owner went to the county and told them he wanted to build this distillery. It took 3 years, 4 public meetings, and 2 changes to local law before they said yes. So in 2015, we started building. 2016, we made our first whiskey. These are the whiskeys we make. Tennessee whiskey, rye whiskey, bourbon whiskey. We also make a Tennessee white whiskey. Think moonshine. Now, top of the list here, it says Tennessee whiskey. The federal government says there's no such thing as Tennessee whiskey. They say in Tennessee we make bourbon. We just choose to call it something else to annoy them. So the feds regulate Tennessee whiskey as a bourbon. All laws applied to bourbon are applied to Tennessee whiskey, and then the state of Tennessee gets involved. The state of Tennessee insists the federal government don't know what they're talking about. We make Tennessee whiskey in Tennessee and it's made nowhere else. And it has to pass through sugar maple charcoal to be classed as a Tennessee whiskey. I will show you where we do the charcoal filtration down there in a few minutes, but first I'm going to say something you won't hear in any other distillery in the world. Please join me under the fancy chandelier. Okay, so right about now you're probably wondering why we have a fancy chandelier in a whiskey distillery. This actually goes back prior to COVID. We used to put events on in here called the Still House Sessions. We'd invite singers and songwriters from Nashville that come down here, perform right there to an audience sat in here eating dinner. Our owner said what these events really need is a focal point. I think getting Chris Stapleton to stand there and sing for us, that was pretty focal. What do I know? We got this. And I believe it came from a place called IKEA. Because it took us 3 days to assemble it. Okay. So back to the whiskey. All the grains we use come from within 10 miles of where we stand. Our owner has a farm 4 miles away where he grows all the corn and wheat that we use. The rest of the grains are shipped to his farm because he has a mill. He will grind the grains, bring them to us. They get loaded round this corner, pass up the white pipe, drop into the big metal tank. This is our mash cooker. We cook 1,000 gallons of mash in this tank at a time, and we start with 640 gallons of limestone-filtered water. If you're making whiskey, consider this. When water passes through limestone, iron is naturally removed by the limestone. Go with limestone-filtered water. You don't want iron in your whiskey. If it's in there, you don't know it's in there, and you put it into an oak barrel, the tannins in the oak react to the iron, it blackens the whiskey, and it will leave a bitter aftertaste. Now, historically, if you ignore the last 100 years of craziness in Tennessee over Prohibition, go back, as far back as 250 years ago. The main whiskey making areas of the world were Tennessee, Kentucky, Scotland, and Ireland. Coincidentally, all of those places sit on a bedrock of limestone. They've all got great water for making whiskey. They also have something else in abundance. Ireland is full of Irish. Scotland is full of Scots. Tennessee and Kentucky have the Scots-Irish. They came over the Cumberland Gap in the 1700s and they settled in Kentucky and Tennessee in their thousands. They brought with them the knowledge about how to make whiskey. That was the beginnings of the whiskey industry you will see today up in Kentucky and down here in Tennessee. Now, after we've cooked our mash in here for 4 hours, we're going to pass it over to one of those big tubs over there. Please join me over at those big tubs. Okay, brandy. If you want to make brandy, grow fruit, make wine, distill it. You'll get brandy. If you want to make whiskey, grow grains, corn, wheat, rye, barley, make beer. Distill that, you will get whiskey. Whiskey is just distilled beer, and that's what's going on here right now. These are our fermentation tanks. We're making beer. We bring over 1,000 gallons of mash into one of these tanks. At that point, no more cooking. All we do is add yeast. The yeast will eat the natural sugars in the mash and give off 3 things: heat, CO2, and most importantly, alcohol. After 3 to 5 days, we're going to have 8 to 10% alcohol in these tubs. At that time in the industry, we actually call it distiller's beer. We could, if we wanted at that point, strain off the grains, add hops, and we would have 1,000 gallons of beer in each of these tubs. But we're not that lazy. We're going to take it over there, we're going to distill it twice, get it into an oak barrel, hang around for at least 4 years, and then drink it as whiskey. Now in a moment, I'm going to let you come up this set of steps. Now when you do come up here, you can, if you wish, do this. Dip your finger in, have a taste. Perfectly safe to taste these. I taste these on average 3 times a day. Been 5 days a week. Been doing it here for 3.5 years. As you can see, I'm a fit and healthy 24-year-old. So obviously there are no side effects to worry about. One final thing, when you do come up, please do dip your finger in. That's how we get the flavor into the whiskey. Okay folks, quick question. Can anybody tell me which state in the US has the most whiskey distilleries? Not Tennessee, no. Not Kentucky. If only we had people here from California that would know the right answer. It's California. Okay, you haven't heard of them because they're craft whiskey distilleries like this. They're not big, obviously, like Jack Daniel. They've only been around for about 20, 25 years. Okay, so if you visit other distilleries in the US, the most common type of whiskey still you will see will look something like this. That is a small continuous still. Not this. This is the spirit safe. Piece on top. Small continuous still. Up in Kentucky, their continuous stills are 3, 4, 5 stories or more high. They are known as continuous stills because the big distilleries make so much of the mash you just tasted, they'll pour it in continually, apply steam continually, and they will make whiskey continually. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they want to. At this distillery, this is our main whiskey still. This is a Scottish style swan neck pot still. We don't use this for continuous distillation, we use it for batch distillation. That means we bring over 500 gallons, we apply steam, the mash cooks, the temperature goes up. The first of the alcohol comes off. That is known as the head of the run. The head of the run gets distilled. It goes up over second distillation, drops down into the spirit safe to its own containment area. Now the head of the run is highly toxic. If you drink it, you could be permanently blinded or even killed. If we go back to Prohibition times, a lot of people in this country wanted alcohol. They couldn't get it. But they'd all heard of the old timers down south making moonshine. Figured if they can do it, it must be easy. It is easy, but if you do it wrong, it's going to hurt. The old timers knew the head of the run was coming. They'd move the bucket out of the way. They'd let the head of the run go straight to the ground. The general public making moonshine for the first time thought that was whiskey coming off there. They put their mason jar under there and drank it. That's where we get sayings like blind drunk and dead drunk. Temperature's going to keep going up. The next alcohol to come off is known as the heart. It's the main part we make our whiskey with. The heart gets distilled. It goes up, over, second distillation, drops to its containment area. The temperature will continue to rise, and the last of the alcohol to come off is known as the tail of the run. That is where most of the flavor is at this point in the process, because the tail contains all of the oils from the different grains that we use to make our whiskey with. Those oils are known as fusel oils, and I will mention them again. The tail gets distilled, goes up, over, second distillation, drops down to its containment area. We now pass the heart up to that tank up there. That is our proofing tank. Distillers just make stuff up. Head, heart, and tail, that's what they call it. Chemists know the real names for things. It's not head of the run, it's methanol. They know that methanol will start to evaporate at 148 Fahrenheit. And it will keep evaporating off until 175, at which point ethanol comes off. Methanol is the bad stuff that's going to hurt you. Ethanol is the good stuff we make the whiskey with. No distillery in the world takes ethanol immediately at 175, because we want you to taste our whiskey, enjoy our whiskey, and survive our whiskey. We put 15 degrees of safety in there. We don't start taking the ethanol until 190. We'll keep taking it until 203, at which point the tail comes off. The tail doesn't have a fancy name, it's just a mixture of oil and water, and it's completely harmless. That's how distilleries do it. It's all done by temperature. Okay, when we bring over 500 gallons, we end up with on average 50, 51, 52 gallons of whiskey. The rest is waste, tail and head. Okay, if you all look over your shoulder back there, see that tank that's coming in? After we finish pulling the whiskey off, all the water and all the grains are left in the copper pot still. They back that in here and they suck all those grains out into that tank. Local farmer, cattle rancher comes out, that's his tank and his truck. He comes out here 3 times a week, takes that back and feeds it to his cattle. I'm not saying they get drunk, but they are happy. So in America, federal law, when you make whiskey, bourbon, Tennessee, whatever, when it comes off, it must be 160 proof or less prior to going to the proofing tank. Once we get it in that tank up there, the first thing we do is add water. It's called proofing. We bring the strength down. So when it leaves there to go into one of these brand new charred oak barrels, it complies with federal law, which states bourbon and Tennessee whiskey going into a brand new charred oak barrel must do so at 125 proof or less. At this distillery, we put it in the barrel at 110 because 110 was the standard prior to Prohibition, and we're making a pre-Prohibition whiskey here. If we take whiskey from that tank and it goes straight to the barrel, it's bourbon every single time. If, however, we bring it one more step this way, pass it through that tank, it is changed into Tennessee whiskey because this tank is full of charcoal, sugar maple charcoal. It's known as a Lincoln County process. It takes our whiskey about 12 hours to gently drip down through the charcoal. As it does, some of those fusel oils I mentioned with all the flavor get taken away. Makes the Tennessee whiskey lighter flavored than the bourbon. Now, on day one, when our whiskey goes into the barrel, it is crystal clear. After 6 weeks in the barrel, it looks like a sample you'd give your doctor. After 4 years in there, it's looking pretty special. Now, what you can tell from the 3 of these, whiskey gets its color from its time in the oak barrel. It does. It gets 100% of its color and over 60% of its flavor from its time in the oak barrel. And on day one, when the whiskey goes into the barrel, there is always an air gap in there. That air gap is going to get bigger and bigger with the passing years because these barrels are not airtight. We will lose 3 to 5% of our whiskey every single year to evaporation. It goes up and the angels get it. Now last year we made 25,000 gallons of whiskey. Bourbon is made in all 50 states currently. Tennessee is only made in Tennessee. And the other thing is bourbon does not come in contact with charcoal. Tennessee has to. So that's it. Made in Tennessee and charcoal. If you want me to, I'll take your picture in front of the copper pot still. Then we head into our 200-year-old tasting room to drink whiskey.
Well, Sir Paul is an absolute goldmine of whiskey knowledge. Look for more with him here in the tasting room. And let us know in the comments where we should go next. As always, drink what you like.